Ad Astra is directed by James Gray and stars Brad Pitt as an astronaut who's sent into space to try to communicate with his father, played by Tommy Lee Jones, who disappeared on a mission years ago. There are mysterious power surges threatening the Earth, and they seem to be coming from the very place that Jones disappeared, and it's unclear if he's causing them or if he's even still alive. Ad Astra means to the stars in Latin for the small number of dumb, stupid idiot heads out there who don't understand Latin. Like me, I didn't understand it, I had to look it up afterwards. I appreciated the trailers for this film because they made it look interesting and cool, but still managed to not give away much of anything. It's not even clear what the plot is. I like that. I appreciate vagueness in my trailers a lot. Sometimes. Well, I appreciate it almost never, but it worked here. But I really like the film. It's just a great sci-fi movie. It somehow has that slow-moving feel of an art house film, but it also has a plot that's easy to understand, and also somehow seems to move at quite a quick pace. I don't know how. Maybe because there's a lot of visuals of rockets and ships slowly moving through space while ponderous music plays. Brad Pitt is great in this role. He's very subdued in a similar way to Ryan Gosling in First Man, but it works better here because we get more of an idea why he is that way. It's a big part of his growth as a character, and it makes the film almost as much of a character piece as First Man was. Pitt's character is very emotionless. He's unfazed by dangerous situations, but also unwilling to open up or connect to others, which is tied in with his relationship with his father. It means that the emotion of the film is also very understated, which normally I wouldn't like, but here anything else would have felt out of place. Our focus is entirely on Pitt, which means that Tommy Lee Jones and Liv Tyler, who plays Pitt's wife, are barely in it. I think that Tyler maybe has one line of dialogue. Pitt's character has a voiceover narration which explains a lot of what he's going through, which is well done. It's important to know these things. The movie would still work without it, but then, like First Man, I'd just be sitting there saying, like, seriously, what is this guy's deal? Who knew the first man to walk on the moon was, by total cosmic coincidence, also the most boring human being in existence? Something I didn't think that I would ever say about a standalone sci-fi movie is that I really love the world building. It's always a great choice not to specify when exactly it's set. It just says that it's set in the near future, and from what we see, it looks like it's a few years of progression after the sort of thing we saw in The Martian. So we've colonized the moon and Mars, and there are warring factions on the moon and pirates. There's commercial space travel, and it all feels very realistic and tactile. Like, if these things did happen within the next 100 years, this is probably how it would happen and what it would probably look like. There's a moment where Pitt is on a commercial shuttle to the moon, and he asks what is basically a flight attendant for a blanket, and she charges him like $150 for it, and he's not surprised at all. It's very expensive because, yeah, it probably would be. It's probably a fortune to travel that way. Also, how the duration of space travel is still quite long. Like, it takes weeks to go from the moon to Mars and then from Mars to Neptune. They could have done a better job making us really feel the length of the travel, but it would have been at the expense of that paradoxically slow-moving, quick pace I mentioned before. Subtle moments like the expensive towel on the shuttle were great, but it felt like there was a lot of exposition at the beginning of the film. It was well delivered in the style of a military briefing scenario, and it was all well delivered for the most part, but there is a moment where some general type is explaining to Brad Pitt about all the things that Brad Pitt's done and how Brad Pitt was married, but Brad Pitt and his wife separated. Like, he doesn't already know this. And it's all information that we could have learned anyway because it comes up later in more natural ways through the interaction of the characters. It felt like it was rushing through the exposition to get it out of the way as fast as possible so it could get on with the plot, which I did kind of appreciate, but they could have done a better job setting up who was running things. Is it the American government? Is it the military? Is it a giant corporation? I didn't really get that. It wasn't really clear. The set design is also great looking. A lot of it is the sort of thing that's a variation on the type of thing we've seen before in space travel films, which all looks phenomenal, but every now and again there's an artistic flourish, like the recording room scene and a room that projects flowers and birds on the wall. It's almost like the director and the cinematographer couldn't resist the opportunity to put a bit of style into scenes where it wasn't as necessary to make it look very realistic. So they play around with the lighting and the set design a bit. But there are some really great sequences. The opening scene where he falls off an antenna that's so high up it reaches into space. There's a car chase and a shootout on the moon, a zero-gravity fight inside a shuttle, and even animal attack scenes. There's a lot of cool stuff in this. Basically, Brad Pitt is sent off on a journey into space, and he has to stop at different places along the way, and then things happen. Action sequences and setbacks will just happen, and it felt strange to me because they don't have any lasting impact on the plot. They were really entertaining, but at times there was a bit of this happens and then this happens and then this happens going on. They contribute to the world building in a good way, but they didn't feel very organic. Donald Sutherland is in the film, and his character felt very needless. He gives Brad Pitt some information at some point, but it seemed to be building to some kind of secret reveal about Sutherland and Tommy Lee Jones's characters that just never comes. The film had a similar vibe to Arrival, which is mostly because of the score, which felt very similar. It was composed by Max Richter, who didn't compose the music for Arrival. Johan Johansson did, but Richter's pre-existing piece of music called On the Nature of Daylight was used as the theme of Arrival. Part of the reason I couldn't really get into Arrival when I first saw it was that all I kept thinking about when the music played was Shutter Island, which also used that exact same piece of music, kind of like it was its theme as well. There was such a shock moment at the end for me when there's a countdown announced by a computer voice, like, this thing will happen in 3 hours. I don't think I've ever seen a countdown that long that gave the characters that much time to do what they needed to do. It was a very un-Hollywood thing to do, and it actually made me laugh a little bit. It feels like a few different films, obviously. 2001 and Interstellar. It actually has the same cinematographer as Interstellar, Hoyt van Hoytma. Arrival, The Martian, Heart of Darkness, but it still feels like its own thing, and feels like a new standard by which other films will be measured in terms of their portrayal of a realistic future space travel aesthetic. I also think that it's the sort of film where if you just tweaked it a little bit, could also have worked as a Verhoeven-esque satire with the advertisements and shopping malls on the moon, and the pirates on the moon, and large corporations owning everything, all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna give Ad Astra an A. If you like films about space travel, if you like sci-fi, if you like Brad Pitt, you'll like this. I would actually advise watching the trailer for this. It doesn't really give anything away, but if you like the general tone of it, you'll probably like the film. As it came towards the end, I started to get a sneaking suspicion that there was going to be some kind of twist, some big reveal that things weren't what they seemed, or we'd been tricked in some way by the film, kind of like an Arrival. But there wasn't anything like that, just to let you know it's not that kind of movie with a twist ending. Also, if you go to see it, go when it's not busy. This is a film that should be enjoyed in a silent theatre. Not one filled with absolute dickheads trying and failing to pull sweets out of very noisy plastic packages during the nice quiet scenes of the film, and 3 separate people having to be asked to turn their fucking phones off. Some absolute knob cheese was taking pictures of himself down near the front of the theatre. I almost admire the complete lack of shame that it takes to do something so embarrassingly pathetic. Thank you very much for watching my review. Please like and subscribe, follow me on Twitter. It all really helps the channel grow. Comment down below, let me know if you've seen Ad Astra, what you thought of it, liked it, disliked it, agree or disagree with any of my points, or if you have any points of your own. I'll be back soon with more reviews, and I will see you then.